Question was, did we go into the project with a particular point of view about the story, and did it change throughout the course of making the film? Why don't you tell about how this all came about? Your box.
I guess in 8th grade Louisiana history is when my family told me that my great uncle supposedly shot Huey Long, and I was never allowed to bring it up at the dinner table. And so I did my report on, you had to pick something in Louisiana to report on, and you can do like Zapp's potato chips, and I chose Huey Long. And so that's why everybody does the Zapp's, because you get the free box of Zapp chips. So I chose that, and my grandmother, Ida, handed me a box of articles. I mean, you just didn't speak about it. And I pulled those articles, and I went in thinking that he did it, and I noticed as an 8th grader that something didn't add up. It just wasn't making any sense with the bullets and the testimonies. There's just all this lack of stuff. So I've just been fascinated with the subject ever since. And so David and I went to school together, and I came to him, and he had just made a political documentary, Crawford, and so I asked him about it, and his first thing was, now, if we discovered that he did it, are you going to be okay with that? And I said, absolutely. It's just the question. It's still such an open question, and I'm just very curious about it.
And I think for me, for me, I think I didn't have necessarily, an opinion. I think we went back and forth many, many times. We started this project in 2009, and we went back and forth many times, and I think ultimately became more interested, or more when we realized that there was going to be no whodunit. There's not going to be a payoff in the film. That became clear that it was more about these families seeking closure and what that emotional journey is like. And if you care about them, then you care about the history, and that the film became more about sort of how history is written, and that we all. Maybe everybody's had the experience of you read something in the paper, you see something in the news that you actually know something personally about, and you probably see 3 or 4 errors or things that are wrong with that, and you're like, they got that wrong and that wrong, and then then go back the next day and continue to take everything I read at face value. And I think we hope with the film that there's this sense of questioning where these stories come from and how they sort of come to be made, and leaving the question open, I think, is kind of where we've ended up. As far as definitive public opinion, I think it's hard to say. And in some ways, I try, when we were in New Orleans and we'd just jump in a cab, I would just ask the cab driver, like, who do you think killed Huey Long? And you literally hear a lot of different theories. So, this is sort of to the heart of it. But a lot of people will say that Standard Oil killed Huey Long because he was fighting back against them as a monopoly. A lot of people believe that Roosevelt, who he was going to run against in the 36 election from the left, and who he had created a whole host of issues for in D.C., actually sent somebody down, and then that's why there was no federal investigation. So there are many, many, many theories, and you will hear them all. I can't quite imagine the opinion polls, but it's fascinating how much power those tour guides have at the Louisiana State Capitol, because every 7th grader, including these guys that are 70 years old, have been on that tour. And we asked her where she got her information, and she said she watched a training video, which we tried to get our hands on because we thought that would be good to cut in. But, it's, who knows? The people that believe that Weiss wasn't armed when he went into the Capitol believe that the bodyguards or the state police went into his car, which was parked at the state capitol, and into his glove compartment. His brother later testified that the doors were open and the glove compartment was open. Things were kind of thrown around everywhere. They basically took the gun out and then planted on him. You hear somebody describing sort of, it's not in the crime scene picture and it's planted elsewhere. You see Don Morrow from Louisiana State Police police that believes that the existing, that Weiss did shoot Long, or there's no reason to overturn it. And he at that symposium held up his car keys and said, my car's here at the state capitol too. Can anybody go find it? So, depends where you fall out. Carl's
keys were not on his body at the crime scene, so Ida recollects that someone had to go, her brothers had to go back to the house, or his father's house, because I think it was his father's car, and get the keys, a spare set. Thank you guys all for coming. Yeah.